Oh, today we're going to do a twofer for you. We're going to do some mashed potatoes. I'm going to show you how I make mashed potatoes. These are just going to be simple mashed potatoes, nothing unusual about them. And we're going to have what is affectionately known as S.O.S. In the Army, it's called shit on a shingle. To those uninitiated, it might be called cream chip beef on toast. Right now, I'm preparing the mashed potatoes. I'm cutting my potatoes up in chunks. Now, I always recommend that you wash any vegetable that you get from the store. The reason being is because you don't know what it might have been in before you got it. Okay? I slice my potatoes up into chunks, small chunks preferably. You can see I don't really measure or anything like that, but they're about so big. The smaller you cut them, the quicker that they are going to boil. I figure usually about 10 minutes to 15 minutes is usually sufficient to make a decent pot of mashed potatoes. As a general rule, you can always figure approximately 1 potato per person. Because this 1 potato is a little on the smaller side, I'm doing 3 potatoes. Unfortunately, you can't really do just half a potato. You have to do the whole potato once you cut it. So what I'm doing is 3 potatoes. That will give me enough mashed potatoes to feed 2 people to 3 people. There's no hard and fast rule about it. That's just my recommendation. Now what I have is a pot of water. It's nothing but just plain water. Probably 5 or 6 cups. And I've salted the water. Adding salt helps the water to boil. It breaks down the surface tension of the water. It makes it more susceptible to the heat. And all we really do is just drop the potatoes in the water and set them to boil. It will take them about 15 or so minutes, 10 or 15 minutes. I've already got my water on heating, so that made things a little bit quicker. But it's still going to have to boil for a few minutes. Okay, now we're going to get ready before we start making our S.O.S. What I'm going to do is prepare myself to make my flour and whatnot. I've got here about half a glass of milk. I'm going to add to it half a glass of water, just plain water from the tap, and have it setting ready, because when I get ready to make my gravy, I'm going to want to do that. I'm also going to get out some flour and have it ready, because I want to make gravy from the flour, and I'll have it ready as well. Now, I'm also going to grab a tablespoon that I can use to dip my flour, because I just want to put a little bit of flour in there. It's not going to be a whole lot. Alright, now, some people like to do this with hamburger. I prefer to do it with dried beef. These jars are less than a couple bucks, or right around a couple bucks, and the lids just pop right off of them. I take them out while they're still curled. I put my jar in to soak. Okay, and you can see how it's kind of curled and rolled up. It has that tendency to be curled. And what I do is I lay it out flat like this, and I slice slices from it. There's no particular size or shape or anything that's really particular to this. I just slice it up, okay, till I have little shreds. I prefer the dried beef to the hamburger. A lot of people do like the hamburger. I think the hamburger is the way they make it in the Army, but mine comes out tasting so much better. And I think you'll find that if you eat it. So I just continue to do this until I have them all chopped up. And then I have these long shards, okay, which I usually cut them down to another little smaller size because they are rather long. You don't have to worry too much about the short ones, but the long ones, it's a good idea to maybe cut them down a little bit. Okay, and when you do this, you drop it then into a warm skillet with about 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil in. Okay, it should already be warm, but not too warm. And after you drop them in, you're going to want to turn the temperature down just a little bit because you don't want your beef to burn. Start stirring it as soon as you get it in there because you want it to fry a little bit, but you don't want it to overcook or burn. And now that you have the temperature turned down just a little bit, okay, basically all you have to do is just heat this up a little. It's already cooked, so there is no worry about cooking the beef. After you have it in there and it starts to cook a little bit, before it gets too cooked, you want to take some flour. Okay, now the amount to put in here is something that I can't give you a measurement of. I usually start with a couple of teaspoons or tablespoons full of flour, and then I judge it by the way that my roux, what they call a roux, comes out. A lot depends upon the amount of oil in here. Whatever you do, do not add salt because salt and the dried pork is going to be way too much salt. The dried pork is already pretty salty. And you can see what I've done here. Sometimes I add a little bit more oil to it. Again, like I say, this is something you kind of have to judge on site. And I see that there is just a little bit of dryness in there, so I'm going to add just a little bit more oil. Easy does it. That's just about maybe a tablespoonful. You have to have enough to make it gravy-like. And you want to have enough oil in there to spread the flour around on to the slices of beef. Okay, and you just keep stirring that around a little bit and let the flour cook. Okay, you won't see it bunch up too much, okay, because it's all spread among the beef. And once you get that done, you have a little bit of what they would call a roux here. And I believe that's R-O-U-E is the way they spell that. And then you take your glass of milk and water and pour it in. And I like to pour it in all at one time. Now this is about a 12-ounce glass of water, or milk and water. You can make as much as you choose to make. If you're making a larger amount, okay, you're going to have to add more milk and water. As it cooks, I continue to stir, okay, and it makes a gravy right around the beef. And you can see it's already thickened up, okay, and now I can take the heat, turn it off, and move this to another burner where there's no heat. That will stay very gravy-like, okay, and you can just leave that in the skillet warm, and it will stay warm. The potatoes by now are done. So what we do is we take the potatoes off of here. I'm going to put them into a colander and drain the water from them. They have been boiling for about 10 or 15 minutes. I then grab a bowl, put my boiled potatoes into a bowl. I grab some butter. And I put in a couple of tablespoons full of butter. I'm using a teaspoon here, but I'm adding a little extra. But I put in a little extra butter, okay, in order to make the mashed potatoes. I'm also going to add some milk and some salt and pepper. I don't measure anything. I just know how much to put in. Putting in a little pepper, putting in a little salt, and then what I do is I use a mixer, an electric mixer. Okay, I push this down in here a little bit, and I start slowly. Okay, and I make sure that all the potatoes get down in here. Now, I do not peel my potatoes. I prefer the skins left on them. That choice is up to you. It does have an effect on the taste, but it's really only a slight effect on the taste. And the skins are actually very healthy for you. There's a lot of vitamins and minerals in the skins. But I do recommend highly that you wash your potatoes before you cook them, because you don't know what they might have been sprayed with or something of that nature. And I add just a little bit of milk. Now, you saw that was just a trickle. It might have been a quarter of a cup, but I doubt it. And you continue with the beater and mixing your potatoes. You can see how they look. You want to keep your beaters moving. And you can see as they mash a little better, okay, they become much more pliable. And right now these are just a little bit thick, so I'm going to add just a little bit more milk. But easy does it on the milk. You don't want runny potatoes. Again, mixing like any other thing you cook, making sure that all your contents get mixed well, blended well, is very important, because if you don't, you're losing flavor. Some areas are going to have more flavor than others. Now, there's your potatoes. You can see they're rather stiff, but not so stiff that they're uneven. They taste good. If you need to add a little more salt, you can add a little more salt. Not everybody likes that much salt. Remember, salt raises your blood pressure, so use caution. I run my beaters to get as much off of them as I can before I remove them and put them into soak. And now we have a bowl full of mashed potatoes. That's more than 2 people could eat at one sitting, but it's not bad to have a little extra. The S.O.S. is done, and it's ready to be spread over top of bread or whatever. I like mine over plain raw bread. I prefer that to toast, but most of the time it has been served over toast, as the name cream chip beef on toast denotes. However, very often that was the reason it was toasted, was because the bread was very dried out and wasn't really that much edible. But if you do that, and you take some of your cream chip beef and spread it over your bread a little bit, and then you take your mashed potatoes and gravy and put it in with them, you have a pretty full meal here. And there you go. That's how you make one full meal. And if you want a little something like butter on your mashed potatoes, you can do that. Or you can smear some of the gravy on it as well. And there you have a meal similar to what they would serve you in the Army, called S.O.S. And I think you'll find that it tastes a whole lot better than anything you've ever gotten in the Army. Yummy. And it is very salty. It's very good that I did not salt the S.O.S. because the dried beef is very salty. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and enjoy your dinner. Thank you.